Hello, everyone. Tonight, I'm really excited to have Nidemos on the channel. We're going to talk about a bunch of different topics. And so Nidemos has a channel. If you guys know it, it's by the name Nidemos. If you don't know it, the link is in the description. And please do subscribe because he's just started out recently. And most of you are atheists. He's a fellow atheist, and he does a lot of talking about his experience leaving Christianity, and I think it would benefit a lot of you. So please do subscribe to his channel and welcome.
Thank you. And I actually just recently updated my channel's vanity URL. So I'm Nidemos _ the animated atheist. So there you go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Manny. So we both read this book. That's what prompted this stream, right? God and the Big Bang. Or is it God of the Big Bang?
God of the Big Bang. I'll put the picture up on the screen here.
Yes.
So, yeah, we were both in the chat on Capturing Christianity, and they had the author of this book on, and Nidemos said he was going to read it. So I said, I'll read it. And then we agreed to have a talk about it. So, but we're going to talk about more than just that book, I think. So
yeah.
We can launch in whatever you want to discuss first.
Right. So the first thing is what I find fascinating, right, between your channel, Capturing Christianity, and a book like this, right, is how you guys land on like the age of the universe and the age of the earth, right? And on the one hand, when you guys put forth like the Kalam cosmological argument, and maybe you don't do it this way, but like the force of the Kalam and what is it, like the fine-tuning argument, are precluded on the sciences that validate a universe with a beginning, right? And the sciences that are trying to establish that the universe has a beginning are all seemingly evidentially pointing to an old universe, right? So at minimum, if you're going to appeal to those arguments, you seem to be granting that at minimum the universe is old, and then maybe you could try to swiggle, slip your way out of saying something like, well, the universe, yeah, that's incomprehensibly old, fine, but the earth is special because God made it special, right? And he did so early on reasons, right? So that's one of the things that I wanted to address with you, because if you agree with the what does William Lane Craig call it? He calls it like
the
preponderance of like the preponderance of evidence in support of the a universe with a beginning, right? Or the very the cumulative case that the universe is fine-tuned.
I love this question. Thank you for asking such a great question. Mm-hmm. And so let me just say, first of all, for anybody who doesn't know or understand my position, because I feel like it needs to be said, I am a young earth creationist, but I don't care what Christians believe about this. There are great Christians who believe in, the Big Bang. There's great Christians who believe in evolution. There's great Christians who believe in all kinds of things. So I don't care about this issue with regard to Christians. And so I am not proposing that everyone needs to be a young earth creationist. Like, that is not my belief at all. So I find all the beliefs valid. I have reasons for believing what I believe. But, I'm perfectly accepting of other beliefs. So, but I will say this, I don't think that I have to accept the Big Bang to accept the universe having a beginning. And the reason is because we have limited energy in the stars, right? And so we know eventually the stars are going to run out of energy. Now, if we work that backwards, we know that they can't always have been burning, right? Because then they would have already been burned out, right? There would be no, if the universe didn't have a beginning, the heat would have been used up a long time ago. So I don't have to accept the Big Bang in order to believe the universe had a beginning. And I do believe it had a beginning. Now, go ahead.
So, okay, let me get this straight. So you just don't accept Big Bang cosmology then?
Okay, well, what are you asking in contrast? Like what do you?
Yeah, so like you don't. Okay, so you're trying to basically apply like the second, like a very lay understanding of like the second law of thermodynamics to point toward the universe having a beginning, but that beginning doesn't necessarily have to be the Big Bang. That's
Right.
what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay. Now I understand you a lot better.
Cool. Yeah. So for me, the cosmological argument, if I cared to make it, which I don't, because I actually don't get much into this apologetics world, even though people like to call me a Christian apologist. I really don't care about the cosmological argument or any of the other arguments, really. So, but like, I'm glad other people do, because some people need those arguments and some people want those arguments. So, I don't mean to be dismissive of anyone else's work. I think William Lane Craig is wonderful and he's done a lot of great work. So I can accept the Kalam as a valid argument without accepting all of the things that, go along with
people use in support of the argument, right? Like, so what you're saying is when Christians use those kinds of scientific studies and data as evidence in favor of their argument, that's not necessarily what you would do.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. That makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So that I do find that really interesting and maybe even maybe a little frustrating for me, because as someone that was pretty into apologetics as like part of like my ministry, right? I really wanted to help people have that help them not feel stupid for believing in Christianity, right? And so when like their community of people in the collegiate fields of study on like the universe or like biology, whatever, is all saying like, hey, like the universe is incomprehensibly old, or the earth seems to appear to have a fantastically long age, all of that, like, breathing down their necks. And in old earth and old creation could still have a beginning, right? In fact, that's great evidence for a beginning, right? And so I would run these kinds of apologetics and reasons for belief using the modern scientific data to try and bolster their faith and their commitments to the Bible.
And I think that's beautiful. And a lot of people are doing that, including the lady who wrote this book. And so, but, I know you guys who watch this channel are skeptical people, right? So I want to give you some reasons to be skeptical about the Big Bang. Okay. And so, I don't know how many people really understand this, because I think most people, if they're in this field, they are pressured to accept the Big Bang and be quiet about it. Okay, but even so, I think many of them are accepting it without truly thinking about what it comes with. And this is not something I'm making up. Okay, there are scientists talking about this, and not young Earth creationists. There's an astrophysicist named Michael Disney. You can look up his thing. There's there's a letter that was written and signed. It's like I think if you look under like cosmological statement, something like that, you will find a letter that was written and signed by a bunch of scientists who say, look, it is like not fair that the Big Bang is like people are being pressured to believe in it when it has so many, we're supposed to believe in all these hypothetical entities, right? So let me just break it down. What is wrong with the Big Bang? It is built on pillars that all of them must stand for it to work. And many of them are involving hypothetical entities that we have absolutely no evidence for. Okay. So what do we have evidence for with the Big Bang? Pillar number one is expansion. We actually have evidence for expansion, right? We see the cosmic background radiation. We have the redshift. Okay. Those are pillars of, that's the pillar of the Big Bang that is most like observable, like that. I mean, that we have the most evidence for. Okay.
Sure.
Then, but the Big Bang absolutely falls flat. Okay. You can't have it if the next pillar doesn't work. Okay. And that's the inflationary theory. Okay. So if inflationary theory, and this is, something that was proposed, I don't remember how many years ago, I'm probably going to botch it, but 50 years ago or something. But basically it is based on, it solves two problems that were absolutely fatal to the Big Bang. It solved the flatness problem and the horizon problem. Okay. So inflationary theory must be true for the Big Bang to be true. And we have reason to believe that inflationary theory is not true. Roger Penrose, great scientist, wrote against it, said, no, it doesn't work. Here's why. And then, okay, so, and, I don't have the scientific expertise to go into the details on that, but this is not young earth creationists saying this. This is not Christians saying this. These are scientists criticizing this pillar of this theory. Okay. Then in order for the Big Bang to work, you have to have dark matter. And dark matter is something absolutely made up. There is no observational evidence for it. What they will say is, oh, but the math works. But it is completely circular reasoning, because what they did is they realized that if there wasn't some other factor, okay, at play, the Big Bang was not going to work. So they made up dark matter. They made the math fit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All
sure,
right.
Sure.
And so we have no observational evidence for dark matter. So we're supposed to suddenly believe that the majority of the matter in the universe is absolutely unobservable. I'm sorry, guys. If you believe that, why are you complaining that I believe in God? That's absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. Don't be gullible.
Isn't that kind of fun? Okay, so one of the things that's really interesting about this exchange right here is I rarely, even when atheists are slamming you with indicting God on various things of the Old Testament, or talking through morality, I rarely see you this fired up. There's something about this that's very important to you.
It annoys me. It annoys me that people are gullible to believe all this stuff just because a scientist said it, okay? When there is no scientific reason to believe it, okay? That annoys me. Okay, two more things, and then we'll, actually, there's one more that I can describe. One I can't even describe because I don't even understand it. There has to be these seeds. I don't even know what that is, okay? But, and so I don't know how that works. Then has to be dark energy. If you don't have dark energy, they made up dark energy. Why? Because they realized that for the acceleration to suddenly take place in the Big Bang after a period of time, they needed something to do that. Otherwise, their theory wasn't working. So they made up dark energy. No observable evidence for dark energy. They will tell you, oh, but the math works. That's because they figured out what they would need for the math, and then they applied those characteristics to dark energy. They applied the math in a circular way. So we have no evidence of this. There is no reason to believe that. So there's good reasons to believe that the Big Bang has failed. Okay. Another thing is that it did not follow the predictions when they made the Hubble telescope. They did not expect to find galaxies that far out that were so bright. And so the observations that we make of the distant galaxies totally blow out what we think they should look like according to the Big Bang model. Okay.
So okay. Well, all right, let's pause there. So when we do use like the James Webb telescope or the Hubble telescope to observe the travel of light, incredible, mind-boggling distances. Okay. When we as humans are doing that, we are making like a fair amount of assumptions about the data. So with the assumption of like light and its generally observed speed throughout the universe, right? We don't seem to be able to alter this like fundamental constant, as it were, right? Like it can like bend and get frustrated by gravitation or whatever, but on the whole, right, it seems to be traveling at a consistent rate. Now, given that, right, and you make that concession, like these telescopes are finding these astronomically far objects, right, illuminating our night sky. If they are as far away as people are saying they are, then it takes an incredible amount of time for that light to travel that distance, right? A time t that is much larger than 10,000.
Yes.
So do you agree with me then that
Absolutely.
the universe is incomprehensibly old?
Well, no. I'm agreeing with you that light it takes a long time to try. I mean, like to get the starlight, to get the starlight right to us, it seems like the distant starlight problem is a problem. Okay. But without inflation, okay, the Big Bang has the same problem because there's not enough time for.
Well, I'm not even saying that we try and re-accept the Big Bang, right? I'm not even. That's not even on the table. I'm just bringing up one data point and that as like as a truth to reality. And then what do we do now that if we agree that that's true, then what do we do for the claim that the universe is incomprehensibly old?
And I don't know. So I don't come as a person who has all the answers to how the universe got here, when it got here, and everything like that. I'm not coming to you as in that position.
Okay.
But I do want to point this out. When Roger Penrose started attacking the inflationary model, do you know now what has been proposed as an alternative to that?
No.
Speed of light being different. Now, so if
I've heard that one before from young Earth creationists, though, that like
I know, and
he's got like a children's steering wheel throttle that he's just like speed of light, and he just like zooms it up.
Now I'm fine with that proposal. Hey, who knows? I don't know if the speed of light has always been constant. But if we can apply that possibility to the Big Bang, why can't we apply it to my story?
Creationism, yeah.
So,
yeah. That's fun. I love how
animated I got.
Passionate you are about that particular issue. I did not expect that. But hey, I think we have made the best 20 minutes of YouTube tonight. Okay.
Cool.
if anyone in the chat disagrees with that, there's something wrong with you.
And Jerome asked me to link the articles, and I will surely do that as soon as this stream is over.
Comment in
What's that?
Put them in a pinned comment at the
Oh,
top of your, so like comment
oh
on
yes,
your own video
got
and
it.
put them in a pinned comment so people don't have to
Okay.
wade through all the other stuff in the description, which is already really long.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so that way when people come to the video, they can choose to either read the description or the pinned comment.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so do we want to move on from that topic?
I think we should.
Okay. You had some other things that you were on your mind. Like, I wanted to ask you, do you think the creation narrative in Genesis is in conflict with scientific discoveries?
As a general question, right? Like, so one of the things that like I remember, let me tackle this. I'll try and I'll pretend I'm like William Lane Craig or something, right? So like, or even like the author of this book, right? Where it's like, no, they're not in conflict. The Genesis narrative isn't trying to answer the questions of how the universe came to be, just who did it, right? And it's not a chronological story, an account of how things happen. It's nuanced, right? This is poetry. You have to address the genre of the literature, right? So if you take that tactic of interpreting Genesis, right, you will immediately be able to say, of course there's no conflict because it's this thing, right? I've defined the text in such a way that it can't have conflicts with some other aspect of the world, right? Yeah, it's mytho-history. I like, and that really bothered me in some regards to go all the way up to chapter 11 for Genesis being mytho-history, because obviously that makes a whole mess of the origins of man, right? And that's where I think Genesis 2 does face a near insurmountable problem with the idea of a historical Adam and Eve, and that drove me more towards like deconstructing my faith than anything else, because obviously, and we've talked on stream before about like interpreting Romans 5 and original sin, because it seems to me that the atonement is predicated on original sin being a thing, because if there's no actual original sin, there's no need for an atonement, and therefore Christianity is false, right? If we don't need an atonement because no one actually sinned, then there's no reason to be a Christian, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so that's where I think the Christian is burdened with the competing with modern genetics and modern anthropology to believe in a historical Adam.
Well, there's so many ways I could go with this right now, but let me just say that I affirm people's right to make it mytho-history if they want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the best interpretation of Genesis. And I also don't think that interpreting the narrative as a historical narrative with the creation days is in conflict with, well, at least as far as we can talk about humanity.
Oh, I'll give you Genesis 1.
Okay.
It's the human part. It's right.
And I don't think that's in conflict with science. I don't think that's
I guess maybe I'm not giving you day 6.
Okay. Right.
What verses 26 and 27, and then God made man in his own image, creating them in his likeness. Right. In the image of God, he made them, male and female, he created them. I had to memorize that one for a class, so I better know it. It helped us defend the Trinity.
I think that was a mistake. with the let us, that's, I don't think that's referring to
Oh.
the Trinity. But anyway,
Oh,
that's kind
neat.
of a topic for
Yeah,
another
yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah.
But
Sure is.
so okay, is the thing that's in conflict specifically evolution?
I wouldn't say evolution per se is like man's origins.
Okay, human origins.
Yeah, human origins. We'll go with that.
Okay, so
Like,
if
I don't
humans
even have
had
to
to evolve
accept.
over millions of years, okay, so we're just talking about humans evolving. If they had to evolve over
No,
millions of
nope,
years,
nope, nope, nope. Nope. I'm not opening an evolution can of worms. I'm opening a anthropological can of worms.
okay,
And modern, and
okay,
just the idea of minimum genetic viability of like a species, right? What do you need for like how many how many organisms in a sexually reproducing population do you need for that population to keep growing, right? On average or whatever. That's where it's more hitting the road for me. I don't even have to care
woo,
how much we changed
okay.
from a monkey or not.
All right, I'm glad you brought this up because let's just talk about that. You know, if we track population growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're only in the low thousands, right? Like less than 10,000 years until the population is zero. So actually, the population growth fits incredibly well with young Earth creation. And, you know, if you look and see what, you know, evolution, I don't even know what to call them because people get offended when you say evolutionists, but, you know, people who accept evolutionary model and who make, you know, predictions about it and talk about it and that kind of stuff. If you look at what they say, the population growth rate was for like all this, you know, the hundreds of thousands of years and then back, you know, like it's like 0.00000009 or something like that. It's so many
Sure.
zeros. It's like if how can a population sustain itself? There's no their proposal for the population growth rate is ridiculous. And then when you consider that, like, even if you killed off 99% of hominids with disease, war, we should still have way bigger population than we have right now.
Doesn't that, like, I guess that makes a lot of assumptions, right? Like about I think that makes a lot of assumptions about humanity in general, and it's overlooking like the technological developments that came along um, with who we are, right? And I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that because I think a lot of our population growth rate is skewed by the modern advancements we've made in technology, right? Our infant mortality rate is now incredibly different than it was, right, several thousand years ago. And the other thing I want to say here is that we have evidence of populations existing outside of, you know, ancient Palestine when the flood was supposed to have occurred, right? So it seems to me that that's evidence enough that you have to have some kind of other anthropological reason to deny that.
Well, if you're limiting the age of the Earth to 6,000 years, then you probably have a problem. But
Okay,
I'm a younger creationist, but it doesn't mean I accept what some young Earth creationists say that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
sure. So the
So
10,000 accounts for it,
I think so. But I
and the
mean, I'm not,
dating.
I will fully admit I'm not an expert on this. But, you know, as we go farther back in time, it really is harder to date when groups were in certain places. But I wanted to say something real quick about your response about the population growth. I was not extrapolating the population growth as it is right now and taking it all the way back to the past. I'm talking about what we know about human civilization from 2,000 years ago, from 3,000 years ago, like the way that what we know about the population growth at that time. Do you see what I'm saying? So like you have to have some population
but you're
growth.
also assuming like that these early hominids didn't have insane tribal wars, or that there weren't other diseases that just wiped them out. Like we're making a lot of assumptions on the stability that could have happened to produce a population like that.
But Nidemos, I give you 99% dying from war and disease. Okay. The population growth rate that they suggest is much lower than 1%. It's 0.00000 blah blah.
All right, well, I need a paper for that one. Send me something to read.
Okay.
Because we're just gonna disagree on this one. I haven't done the same kinds of reading you have, but to me, from the things that I've looked into, let's say, I think that there's good reason to at least believe that humanoid creatures of varying kinds have been all over the earth for a real long ass time. And that's just how it is.
Well, are you thinking of like, are you talking about because of the fossils or because of like artifacts like cave paintings and
stuff like that,
things like that?
Artifact evidence and fossils.
Okay. Well, I think it would be interesting just to look back at how far back our artifacts go, because I think you'll find it's significantly less. But I mean, I guess they're going to say, okay, we picked up this arrowhead from, 100,000 years ago or something. So, I mean, I don't know. So, but yeah, there's a lot to sort out.
Right. Yeah. That one's a roughie. But, you could find a way. And I know Christians who do this, right? You can find a way to, like William Lane Craig, you can find a way to interpret Adam into mytho-history and still believe that Christianity is true. I just had a hard time
see, I feel like you're backtracking, because I think that's what you said was.
Oh, like, I'm just trying to tell the audience that
they can, but not. You could. But you're not going to do that because you feel like there must be a specific Adam and Eve created, not a long trail of hominids.
No.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's how I feel too.
Or a minimum viable genetic population that got corrupted by sin. That still doesn't work. It bastardizes the New Testament too much.
Okay, so then were you unconvinced by Michael? You asked me about Michael Jones's presentation at.
I actually didn't get to listen to his presentation.
Okay.
But I just was asking you what your senses were on it.
Yeah. I thought he made a good argument for it. Not enough to convince me. Yeah.
They almost got you.
No.
Did they need more worship music in it? What do we need to do here?
No. When I say he made a good argument, I mean, like, I thought it was like reasonable. Like one could reasonably come to that, but I still feel like and I mean, I know people are going to object to me saying this, but a plain reading of Genesis 1 and 2 does not bring me to his interpretation. So
now wait a minute. Now, and okay, so this is what I think prompted this stream, right? This is where, on the one hand, I want to ask you kind of straight, like, if Genesis 1 and 2, or even just Genesis 1, if Genesis 1 seemed to clearly indicate that the universe was old, would you believe the universe is old?
Sure.
So what's more important to you, that Genesis 1 and 2 seems to indicate that the universe is old, or that rational intellectual humans come to a conclusion that the universe is old?
Yeah. So, what I'm interested is in knowing what's true. Okay. So, um, I'm weighing what
Oh, we got
are
Dr.
science.
Josh here.
Oh my
Nice.
gosh! I've been wondering what happened to Dr. Josh. I haven't seen Dr. Josh in so long.
I hope you're recovering from the vid, man.
Oh.
Anyway, or Megan, I don't know who's watching, either one. But now
Yeah.
I am like swooning.
Cool. So, like what's important to me is what's true, and I take like scientific observations are important, and also the Bible is important. So, with regard to the age of the universe, actually, I think the old, like the universe being old, could fit very easily into Genesis 1, because you could say, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was out without form and void, and it could be sitting that way for a long time before God says, let there be light. So I'm perfectly fine with the age of the universe being old. So that's not really the issue for me. But
so if, let's say, your Bible didn't have Genesis 1 and 2, and the narrative started in the garden, would the evidence you have aside from that convince you that the universe is old?
I would probably not look into it very hard, and I'd probably just believe whatever I was being told, which is the universe is old, so I'd probably believe it. But I would say
I love that
this.
answer.
But you know what I wouldn't believe, and I am gonna open this can because it's important to open up. I would not believe in evolution, guys, because it's a ridiculous theory, and it you should not believe this. Okay, so I would not believe in evolution for sure, no matter what. I don't care if I didn't believe in God at all. I would reject evolution. So that's just me. But
Well,
the age of the universe, that's fine.
I hope Doug clips that, because that was perfect.
Well, I would challenge anyone who does believe in evolution right now to think about the problems with it. Don't think about what you're being told, because the story has been passed down. And since you guys are skeptics, you're not supposed to just believe whatever you've been told. You're supposed to think about it, and think about the fact that we're proposing that mutations, along with natural selection, was able to assemble all of these fantastic machines of life. And that is crazy, guys, because everything we know about mutations is that they're mostly degenerative. Even if you were somehow...
Yeah, Rebel Nazarene really likes that. So, all right, you're getting back on your horse. You are crusading tonight, and you've got an atheist on that is just going to smile and nod like you do when you've got people making great points.
Refute me, Nidemos.
No, because I am not Sal Cordova's lettered, accredited. I am not an expert. I've just watched a few YouTube videos. Okay, so I'm good. Let's table the evolution discussion, because
okay,
let's talk about something else, because you got back on the horse.
Okay.
Yeah, it won't be fair to me. You're going to be punching a straw man. I'm not that atheist.
All right. Well, where do you want to go, Nidemos?
Thank you for letting me stop you there. But yeah, that's pretty much the main stuff that I wanted to ask you, though, about, like, if the text just didn't have that, where could you see yourself, or what could you see yourself believing, given the rest of the evidence that's around you? And that was great. So that was cool. What were the other topics that we had emailed about?
Well, here I wrote questions to you. So I said, do you think God of the Big Bang succeeds in showing that modern science affirms a creator?
No.
And again, for those who just joined us, we're talking about a book called God of the Big Bang. So you don't think it succeeds. Why not?
Like I had said earlier, there is a, let's see. Well, one problem with the book overall is that it's bringing in philosophical like arguments to try and make the case, not strict. Like I was really expecting, without reading like the Amazon reviews or anything, that when I bought this book, that I was going to get like a step-by-step explanation of like, here's how the cosmology seems to point to a beginning universe. Here's what mainstream scientists are saying about blah, blah, blah. Or I expected the book to be like you on the horse at the beginning of the stream, defending, or dismantling the problems with like modern theories on like how the universe came to be. What I got was a book that is some of that, but then mostly a recitation of William Lane Craig's arguments and Frank Turek's moral argument and some other things that are Christian-ish, tossed on in there that have nothing to do with the study of the Big Bang or the universe or understanding cosmology in general. The other problem with the book is that even if you grant all of it, like you still have shoot, where did I want to go with this? I don't know where I wanted to go with that. That's just basically what it was. That's why I don't think it. I think it is trying to blend in philosophy. It's trying to use science as evidence for the typical philosophical arguments for the faith, and I think it's kind of disingenuous of the author to say that this is a scientific take, or a reason to accept modern science and Christianity at the same time, right? And so that's my biggest beef with the book.
I totally agree with you. I mean, the book is called God of the Big Bang, so you really do expect it to be like you described. And there's very little in the book that is at all related to that. And so, completely agree. So, but what about those arguments for God's existence? Do you find any of them compelling?
Some days, like why is there something rather than nothing type of thinking does creep into my head, but I don't find like the moral argument compelling anymore, or like fine tuning necessarily. Let's see, what was the other one? I mean, oh man, when she went into like some of the evidence for like some of her arguments for Jesus and believing the gospel were terrible, to be honest. One was literally like, a lot of people believe a thing, therefore we should believe the thing. Like that. No. You don't want to commit the ad populum fallacy. I got mad reading that chapter. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, if we're after truth and a lot of people believe Islam, like Muhammad Jihad, we got to believe, Alhamdulillah, praise be unto Allah. Like, if Islam takes over the world, we're screwed. Like, that is a terrible way to do epistemology. So don't do that. And the section on like UFOs was like frustrating, because if your idea of validating claims is on eyewitness testimony, right, you ought to believe people who have extraterrestrial experiences because they're the eyewitness. You're getting the information firsthand and even closer to the events than any gospel you've ever picked up and read. right?
Mhm.
If your standards are the proximity of time and witness, you can start accepting all kinds of outrageous claims, right? And again, bad way to go after truth if that's like the way you're going to go about it. So yeah, I was very frustrated with that chapter. Oh, and then she overstates the case of so it was the way it's phrased in the book is particularly frustrating. Let me find it. Shoot, where is it? She basically says like that Jesus's crucifixion and resurrection was witnessed by Paul and Mark, which nope, no, it was not. Nope. Only Paul did not witness both of those things. In the New Testament, he meets the risen Jesus, but not at the initial resurrection, right? So wrong. Mark would, in church tradition, is the disciple of Peter or something, and is writing, the Petrine account of Christ's life, death, and resurrection. He was not there. So it's basically this disingenuous jump of saying that, he's saying that Peter says, that Jesus did the things, right? I wish that apologists would just say that's what you're actually reading when you're reading that text. You're not reading like your neighbor, the fire truck came to your neighbor's house yesterday and your neighbor comes back. You saw it with your own eyes and your neighbor goes, yeah, the fire truck was here yesterday, right? Yeah, first, and here's why. We had a gas leak, right? Oh, okay. You're apt to believe that because you're getting it straight from the source, shortest amount of time. Done. It's different when you're away at work and your neighbor says that your neighbor had the fire truck come and fix a gas leak at their house. You could be like, yeah, that's generally plausible, but now it's like third hand, right? There's a reason we don't accept hearsay in court, right? It could be fabricated, especially as the claims get more and more audacious, right? And so I just wish apologists would be more honest and say, we have this book that makes these fantastic claims that are what so-and-so says of what so-and-so said and experienced, not this is literally the person. Sure, we got that for Paul, but yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely understand your frustration with that. I did think there is a case to be made that Mark, I don't think we can prove that he saw the resurrected Christ unless there's some kind of document that I'm unaware of, which there might be. But I mean, he was definitely one of the ones that was hanging out with Jesus quite a bit,
Wait, Mark?
Yeah.
Oh, that's if you assume he's the naked guy in chapter 15.
If you assume that, but
that Bible trivia is great. I love that.
But
we got to put the naked guy in there.
But even if you don't assume that, you can still say he was very close to the apostles because he's mentioned in the book of Acts. He's mentioned several times. He's, so like it seems like he was among the early group that, and if we believe Paul's testimony that there were 500 witnesses, it's most certainly that Mark was one of those.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, that also, though, does kind of make the presumption, right, that those marks between those documents are indeed the same marks, right? Because, we have to distinguish, right, the differences in which John are we talking about, which James are we talking about, which, what's his nuts? Shoot. He was one of Paul's disciples that he really loved. Blanking. Shoot.
Barnabas? Barnabas? No.
Epaphras. Is it Epaphras or Epaphroditus? Or is it someone that just happens to have this similar name, but it's not the same person? So you have to come at the text with the presupposition that those are likely the same exact Mark. And if you do, then the Mark who's writing the gospel was once a defector of the faith for a little while. or
Oh,
like
you mean because he ran away?
derelict of duty. Yeah, well, he and Barnabas and Paul had a little
Oh,
pissing
yeah.
contest over something, and yeah, so
I love that the New Testament records all their fighting, you know? Like when Paul says, like, when you know Peter came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned. And you know, like,
yeah,
I don't know. I love that stuff.
yeah. But anyway, you get my point. Like, or it'd be a fun question, rant, or just a total tangent.
Okay.
What do you think the church fathers would say about like our YouTube channels, right?
Yeah, this is
Or
crazy,
Christian YouTube.
right?
Christian YouTube is what I would want to say.
Hard to predict. It's like it's an amazing development, isn't it?
Yeah. You guys are getting on video the debate between, once saved, always saved. Wow.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned, because I asked you, like, one of the things the book seeks to answer is, does Christianity make sense in light of logic, reason, and science? So you kind of sent me a short response on this about like something you find illogical, I guess, maybe the Trinity.
Oh, yeah. Like that whole like triangle. You ever see the triangle
Yeah,
document, right? Or picture where this is not this, this not,
right.
is not this. Not. Like, I don't know. Like with laws of identity and non-contradiction, like the Trinity just does seem like this thing that you have to, as a Christian, just be like, meh, it's a mystery. Like it doesn't make sense, but I believe because and you know what? I'm not trying. All right, I won't be so mean. I get it. Like you have your other background beliefs that if you hold these beliefs, it seems like you ought to be holding on to this other belief, right? So if you almost need to like beliefs for people that watch your channel and even the skeptics and atheists, right? It seems like anymore from watching all these conversations, it's kind of like your faith commitments and your current beliefs are like a woven blanket. It's not like your belief in Jesus is really this like one argument that you found so convincing, or this maybe for some people, or maybe for some people it's this one experience they had, right? But once you progress away from that experience, or you're trying to have a conversation like this, it's this what interlocking woven tapestry that you almost have to like de-apologetic each strand, each part of the what are those called? The big blankets. Quilt. You have to take each
Okay.
square of the quilt apart and to then kind of recognize, wow, this is actually kind of a terrible blanket, right? And I feel that way with like trying to believe the Trinity, right? It's like you don't really accept believing the Trinity until you believe a lot of other things about
True.
Christianity. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
that's why I think the Trinity doesn't make sense on its own. But if you have other reasons to believe the other things that the New Testament says, then you have to kind of like pretzel your way into Trinitarianism.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. And
the chat is still totally off topic on like creationism debating.
oh, really?
So awesome.
Oh, I
I've
haven't
completely
been paying
ignored
too
it.
much attention to it, but there is some stuff. I will go back a little bit and see if people have questions and stuff later. And there's one question from the beginning that I want to put out. But yeah, I agree with you, Nidemos. It's one of those things. I mean, and actually, I have a lot of experience with this because of Muslims, sharing the gospel with Muslims. I have never successfully shared the logic of the Trinity with any Muslim. Okay. And I've had a lot of conversations about the Trinity with Muslims. Yeah. So, they'll ask me about it and I'll explain it. And then they'll be like, no, that's like not logical. And so but what I have noticed is that when I introduce Muslims to Jesus through the Gospels, they can come to know Jesus, and then the Trinity is not a problem for them. So it is kind of like what you're saying, where it's like, that's a part of the quilt that maybe you wouldn't accept at all if you didn't have other reasons for believing. And I think we do that with a lot of things. I mean,
Don't we though?
Nidemos, we have to do that in science so much because nothing makes sense. We don't have a unified theory that unifies general relativity and quantum theory. Quantum theory doesn't make any sense in some senses in the rest of what we know about physics. And then you take even the nature of light. And this is how I made a Trinity video a couple years back. And this is
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. And I took Albert Einstein's quote about the contradictory nature of light. And he's like, look, Albert Einstein was like, we've got these two things that seem to be, light seems to have two properties that are mutually exclusive. It seems to be both a particle and a wave. But those things, a particle and a wave, are, seemingly contradictory. So he's like, on one hand, we have to accept this because this is, this is consistent with our observations, but it seems to be a contradiction. So, and that's the way I feel about the nature of God. I'm like, okay, in one sense, I see how it is. It seems seemingly contradictory, but if things can be like that in nature, why wouldn't I think the nature of God could also have a level of something that would be difficult for me to understand and that would be seemingly contradictory? So the Trinity doesn't keep me up at night. I mean,
Right. It's just this thing where God's just going to defy all of our intuitions anyway. So he made us. We're lesser. Just get with the program. We're not meant to fully understand him. Oh, wait. Maybe I don't want to say that.
Okay, so was there anything else that doesn't seem logical to you about Christianity?
Specific. Oh man, I don't know if LPP is still listening. He'll be like, this makes total sense. What is wrong with unity? But yeah, I don't know if I want to go into some other long topic. We can let people ask us questions.
Okay, guys, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll start with the one that I starred from the beginning. So West 501 says, do you or the panel think the Bible... I'm sorry, I'm going to have to get my glasses because this is kind of small. Think the Bible, New Testament, has the exact words Jesus spoke? If so, how can you prove that claim? Well, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that? What are your thoughts on that, Nidemos?
Yeah. The exact words Jesus spoke. I mean, from a skeptical point of view, the short, sweet answer is no. Now, what I can say is that the Gospels contain, and the Gospels in the book of Acts, because Jesus does make pop appearances in there. And in 1 Corinthians, my grace is sufficient for you, or 2 Corinthians, that Paul hears the voice of Jesus. So what we have is we have documents saying what people heard, saying they're counting what they think the Christ could have said in their narratives, or if in the case of the epistles, what they think they heard Jesus say to them personally. And They could be sincerely mistaken.
Yeah. And I would just say it, in some cases, I would say I can't prove that they, were writing down the correct words of Jesus. Not at all. And in addition to that, there's some places in the New Testament where it's kind of like who heard this? Because Jesus is
Oh,
there, right?
Yeah,
Jesus is
Mhm.
there with maybe like, okay, so like one of them is like when
Jesus was alone on a mountain to pray. Well, how'd they know he was praying? Like, right? Like,
yeah, that's
or
a good
alone in the
point.
garden. There you go. Like alone in
Yeah,
the
when he
garden.
was praying
Like,
alone
Father,
in the
take this
garden.
cup for me.
Yeah,
Well,
now
how do you
that
know
one
they said that?
they say he was a stone's throw away from the disciples, right? So it's
But they
possible
fell
that
asleep,
that's
and he got
true.
mad about it.
That's
Yo,
true.
dog, wake up! Get your asses up!
Maybe they heard him crying out and they still fell asleep. But anyway, and if
That's
he
what he got so
was,
mad about. Yeah.
yeah, if he was speaking loudly, then I can totally see how they heard that. Um, yeah, but it is kind of interesting. The
The
one
spirit is
that's,
willing, but the flesh is weak. Or
yeah.
who heard him say? Which of the gospel authors heard him say, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Right? Like you have to presume that they both, the gospel authors, if they are eyewitnesses, that they both, if the text is taken at face value, they both fled but then returned later to the actual crucifixion part. When it seems to me that they're all like scared shitless of getting crucified themselves, right? And the idea is that like for dramatic effect that Jesus is taken alone with Peter kind of like, oh shit, they're gonna kill him. And then Peter's hanging out with a servant girl and that's it. Like he's not at the crucifixion.
Well,
And
see, the
not until
crucifixion, though.
not until the Gospel of John, which is later, do they add disciples actually.
That's what I was gonna say. John was at the
I
crucifixion.
forgot about that.
So,
I did forget about that.
yeah, so John was at the crucifixion, and the women were at the crucifixion. So, I mean, if
Okay,
we
yeah.
even say,
But only in John, right? Were they at the crucifixion in Matthew,
I
Mark, and
have to
Luke?
go back and look and see, but so the one that
Anyway,
gets
you get the
me,
idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
No, that's it.
okay, cool. All right, let me see what else. This is Cameron says, who was there watching the
Yeah.
angel talk to Mary about being pregnant? See, I think, the only place where that story is recorded is in Luke. And I think Luke interviewed Mary because that's the gospel that has the most information about Jesus's birth. And so it seems like it is more from Mary's point of view. It has like a lot of details that you can imagine Mary giving. So, but this is a good one. This is a good one. This one now, see how long you're on it. He said, "Who witnessed Jesus Jesus' conversation with Satan out in the desert?"
Yep.
Now, this one is interesting because nobody else was there, and that means Jesus would have had to tell someone about it, or I guess the Holy Spirit could have just told someone. The Holy Spirit could have inspired it, but I mean, that takes a little more of a stretch in belief. Like you actually have to believe that the Holy Spirit did that, which is fine.
Well,
But
that's the problem with something like this, right? Is that what you've essentially done is made a just so story. And so a just so story is a way that you bring biases and justifications to the data that you have around you in order to make this make sense, right? Oh, it's just so the case that this other thing happens, even though we have no other reasons to believe it, but this helps us believe it. You're importing some assumptions and ideas there.
I know, kind of like the Big Bang. But
Oh,
anyway,
dear.
okay, so but yeah, you're right, Nidemos. I mean, so there's reasons to I mean, if somebody was just saying, I want only words that I know from a witness that Jesus spoke, I don't believe in any of that Holy Spirit inspiration stuff, then you might have a problem with that story.
Yeah.
That I'm saying I think that's how long brought up a great point that's one where there is no witness unless Jesus happened to repeat it to someone else or unless the Holy Spirit told. So, but we don't have that in the story. Mel says, when Jesus was only 12, stays behind at the temple, knowing parents would worry. How is that honoring his father and mother? Even my own non-omniscient son would know better. Do you want to respond to that, Nidemos? Does that bother you that Jesus did that?
No.
Never
No.
bothered, doesn't bother you?
No,
Doesn't
because
bother me.
he gives the justification for it right there in the text, like that his real father is in heaven, so he can do what he wants.
Yeah, but it's interesting, Nidemos. Did you see the clip with like Randall Rouser? I think it was even on Doug's channel.
No.
Where he clipped, well, I think he clipped, or I don't know, because I don't usually sit around and watch Randall Rouser. I think he's a great guy, but I don't do this that much. But Randall Rouser was like horrified by this, and he was like just kind of like expressing his frustration that Jesus did this and his like not understanding why Jesus did this and stuff. So anyway, it does bother some people.
Yeah.
The Uncle Jesus show wants to know, where does the Holy Spirit reside most of the time besides in folks' hearts? He's everywhere.
There were some other questions. I think I really get under Rebel Nazarene's skin or something. Where was that question?
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Nidemos, why do you believe a stuffed bear was designed and created, but a real bear that is more powerful, dominating, impressive, and complex as a result of some random mindless accident? Oh, no. Checkmate, atheists. I'm so shook. Just because I don't have a ready explanation for the origins of a particular species of bear doesn't mean that God did it, that it's a uniquely created animal, because reasons like I don't owe anyone like a story of evolution or anything like that. So and maybe maybe I don't believe that. Maybe I what if I was like a polytheist atheist or something, or some weird, I believe the demon made the bear, like the bear maker argument. B.S. Lewis. Were you there? Yeah, I wasn't there. I wasn't there for the bear in its underwear.
Well, do you find Rebel Nazarene's like his question like about the bear, like I agree with him. Like I'm like, yeah, a stuffed bear isn't going to come about by chance, and neither is a real bear. But I wonder why if you don't find that to be compelling, why not?
Well, I don't find it to be compelling because it's really just like, we're creatures that just want cognitive closure on things. We just want to have an answer for everything. And when answers are complicated and difficult to pursue and way beyond like our particular like areas of study or expertise, we can't just immediately like dive over and say, bam, God. Like it's just frustrating to me, because that's what it's doing. It's like, I don't know like all these processes that explain the origins and absolute certainty of a particular set of animals or whatever. So therefore, it must be a God reason. Like I just don't see how that actually follows. Like, and then you get into like another problem, right? Like, okay, fine, the bear was designed by God, so which parts of the bear are good and which parts are not good? Are the razor sharp teeth to rip apart its prey and us good or not? Was it designed initially for predation or not? Or did, when Adam and Eve fell, did God just go, oh shit, now I've got to introduce death into the world, so I need to change the complete and utter morphology of all these creatures to make sure they can absolutely maraud everything that they encounter? Oh, great. I'll give you that. Then God's awesome at making natural torture machines that roam around in the forest and don't give a shit about any of us.
Wow, nice. Yeah, I you're bringing up some great points there. And I think Jason Torn put a kind of a question in. He said, so if something can't be explained, only
That's my
logical
horse.
explanation is God. Yeah. That's basically kind of following up with what you're saying. Now, there's somebody in here called the Uncarved Block.
Oh yeah, I'm the potty mouth atheist that comes by sometimes. I'm sorry.
Why? Oh, did somebody say something about that or what?
No, yeah. Sorry, gorgeous.
The Uncarved Block says, what is an example of an undesigned thing? Now, something tells me this isn't the Uncarved Block. It's Kim undercover. But anyway, we'll see. Maybe he'll reveal himself. So,
or like, eyeless fish that develop eyes when you bring them out of their caves. Are those designed, right? Was that good? Or do they fall with the fall in the cave and then lose their eyes? Like, you have to get this, like, Rube Goldberg of Just So's for these really crazy things in nature. Pubic lice, were they designed? Are they good? What were they for? What did they do before they could predate on our furs?
Yeah, well, I mean, these are good questions. And I mean, I tend to think mosquitoes weren't wanting to suck my blood before the fall. But so I think, but I mean, they are good questions. Like, why does a shark have sharp teeth and can smell blood?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I have a potential answer for that, but I don't know if you wanted to go into it or just wanted to make a point.
I'm done with that one.
Okay.
But Rebel, here's the thing. I got on my horse and I said what I said, and I didn't expect to communicate in that way. And I care about you as a person. I just think that making the argument that way just doesn't quite work for me.
There was something,
and you could be disagreeing with me and mad at me, or whatever. You're on the internet. I'm probably never going to meet you face to face.
Yeah. Okay. So, what were these other ones? LPP said he wanted to know.
Sometimes your channel makes my blood boil. That's all. And if he wants to talk to me and have a shoot the shit, get drunk, whatever, I don't care.
And BS Lewis said, did you know Nidemos is Atheist of the Month? Congratulations! Nidemos is Atheist of the Month on Jamie Russell's channel.
Right, yes. On Booty 2121 or 2112's channel. Were you there for that?
I've seen that because it's like his email or something, right? Or is it?
It's his vanity URL.
Somewhere. Oh, yes. That's where I've seen it.
Oh, my God. I'm getting He-Man underwear? You have my address? I mean, it is on Franklin County Auditor's website, so I guess you could dox me if you want. Home buy scammers do it all the time, calling me up, trying to buy my house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I heard you have a property at 38 somewhere Drive. Will you sell? No. Stop it.
Okay, well, I have a question for you. You were really frustrated with me about this, like, kind of my answer about how I wouldn't believe in evolution and stuff like that because of science.
No,
and you were thinking it was because of younger. Okay, but now are you satisfied with my answers? Like, even if you don't believe them?
Now I think they're consistent, and now I know why.
Okay.
They're more consistent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm
Let's see.
totally gonna clip that like moment around 20 minutes though.
Oh, when I got mad about evolution?
No. Where you were like, if Genesis 1 and 2 weren't in the Bible, you probably would believe in an old universe.
Yeah, because I wouldn't care. I'd just believe whatever I was being told about it. I'd believe the science books. I'd believe whatever. You know, it's only because of my belief in the Bible that I ever looked into any of this, you know? So,
Sure.
and I would say that's true for evolution too. Like the only reason I ever looked into it was because of my belief in the Bible. But now that I have looked into it, you know, I have scientific reasons for not believing it. And I am looking forward to having Jay Bundy come on my Examining Evolution channel, since he's
cool.
an evolutionary biologist. But Jay, you have not responded to my email. So I'm waiting for you.
Pocket locker.
Yes. So, okay.
I swear.
Anything else that you're seeing in the chat?
Not really, but people are free to pepper us with some more questions here. I got a little bit more in me.
So Jerome says, Nidemos, when people complain about the optics of that story, they are thinking about the parents being worried. No? How would Jesus retorting about his real father matter?
Oh, okay. Okay. So I missed the argument, I guess, is what Jerome is saying. Yeah, I guess you could say that like, oh, okay, here we go. Like Jesus really was honoring his mother and father by showing them his relationship to God the Father and how important that was to him. While it may seem painful and difficult for them to accept that their son was away, it had to be the case. And once they got there, I mean, then they're good. It's kind of like the whole like we give our kids shots even though they don't understand why we're giving them a shot type of analogy, right? Like this is a necessary action that must be taken. You don't understand now. It's not going to make you feel good, but you know, we got to do it this way. So
Jamie says, why is Nidemos a heretic?
Because
well, a related let me switch that to a related question.
Okay.
What are your biggest reasons? I know that you were kind of led away from the faith partially because of people like believing Trump and stuff like that, and you're like, dang, if this many people could be deceived, then what else are they deceived about?
Yes, you understand the argument. That's great. Yeah.
So, but like what are the things like you, I guess actually I might already know the answer to this. Are the big things that are bothering you about Christianity the stuff from Philo and like that kind of stuff?
So actually, well, no, I don't want to spoil this because I actually have been doing more reading of those like ancient texts that I kind of draw on to so Inspiring Philosophy and Braxton Hunter and What Do You Mean did a video recently about the Spider-Man analogy, and Michael Jones made this jump of assertions right in the span of like 2.5 minutes that I found to be a bit disingenuous. And the one of them was when apologists say things like that there's absolutely no Jewish expectation for Jesus to be who he was, when I can now go and read Philo and see parallels to Jewish thinking, Hellenistic Jewish thinking, and the Gospels. They're just there. Like the conceptualization of God manifesting in some tangible way through a logos or a word being, and the Jewish author reinterpreting things in the Psalms and in Genesis to view God as a shepherd king, right? All these titles were getting attributed to the God of the Hebrews in the first century, right? Or the scroll of Melchizedek, which is predating the Gospels, that there was going to be a righteous teacher who, let's see, what's the quote? Who will lead us in truth and righteousness at the end of the age. Basically, it's like an apocalyptic text that predates the Gospels. And so when I read stuff like that, I think it's disingenuous for people like Inspiring Philosophy to say that there's no possible way that Jewish thinking lacked this kind of messianic expectation, while at the same time ceding the point that a lot of people were expecting a Messiah, right? That they kept naming their kids Jesus. Like it was like in the baby book of names, there was only 3, John, James, and Jesus. Like they make a concession like that. So now if you look at it from like a skeptic's point of view, well, all these people are coming in with an expectation of a Messiah or thinking about a righteous teacher and an embodied savior coming to rescue us. Now our temple's destroyed. What the hell? How are we supposed to relate to Yahweh now? Oh, the savior came before the temple got destroyed, right? Like that's we missed it, guys. So yeah. And so that's one thing. And I wish like these kinds of texts and ideas would be acknowledged and then dealt with, right? Like let's really get down in there and adjust. If it is all true, then adjust your apologetics and your argument and don't gloss over this stuff in history. Because again, it's just not a genuine way to frame Judaism. Also, even if you look at Christendom itself, there's an extreme plurality of interpreting, texts within communities, right? You just can't deny that, right? So why do we grant God's revelation being so pluralist around us today, but we don't grant that for the first century Jews? Well, okay, they had Pharisees and Sadducees. That's a pluralist enough, right? It's still not Messiah beliefs. No, that wasn't around. Come on, guys. Like there's like the Essenes living out in the desert, wanking around for Yahweh, doing whatever. There was like these other Alexandria was trying to be the capital for Judaism instead of Palestine. Like it was there. It was pluralist. It was deeply influenced by Greco-Roman culture. Just it's okay. It could still be true, even with all that. I just wish they wouldn't paint the picture disingenuously.
Well, do you think they could just, have you talked to Michael Jones about this?
No, I'm actually just going to make a video, and then if he notices my tiny ass channel, I'll deal with it.
Well, because you might want to think about asking him,
no, what's he going to do with a puny 160 subscriber atheist? He doesn't give a shit. He's busy. He's got kids. He's a wonderful, blue-eyed, soulful boy. I don't want to crush his dreams.
Wait a minute. He was on Jamie Russell's channel the other night. So
Jamie's got like a couple hundred, man.
Well, you're getting there. You're getting there.
We'll see.
And I met him at the conference and he was super nice. So maybe I'll reach out to him and ask him about this. And
yeah.
But will you, and I've asked you to do this a lot, but you've sent me some stuff, but will you send me everything that bothers you?
Sure. All right, I will. For real this time. I was on vacation when I was trying to deal with that. But wait, so someone said in the chat, I want to address this. Niddy is the embodiment of Romans chapter 1. Are you being facetious or are you being serious? I don't know who's. Can you read that script?
I'm looking for that comment. I don't see it. Was it recent?
Yeah. Let me put it in Google Translate.
Okay. Oh, is it Nidian? Okay, wait. Oh, who is this?
Augustine ibn al-Arb. I'm butchering your name.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that an Arabic believer?
Ibn al-Arab. Yeah. Okay. So why is Nidhi the embodiment of Romans chapter 1? I don't know what that
I'm
means.
not gay. I'm not suppressing the truth and unrighteousness to be given over to my lusts or something.
Hi, Brenda.
I make mistakes and I'm a goofball.
Okay, well, this has been wonderful.
Yeah.
Might be a good stopping point.
Mm-hmm.
But did we talk out everything we wanted to talk out tonight? I'm going to look at the list. I said God, science.
Hey, Jamie, no.
Big Bang, faith,
Don't.
and Genesis. Did we talk about all that?
Yeah.
Enough?
Dude, you're gonna be like bigoted on Rebecca's chat. Like, I'm sorry, I'm angry now. I am fucking pissed. Do not make sexual assumptions about people on YouTube. Okay, I am not gonna be okay with people making claims about my sexuality ever. And if I look and sound effeminate, you deal with it. But you don't get to come on Christian channels and make assertions about people's sexuality. Let people be people. I'm sorry. I'm upset. Now the fire's on.
Would you like me to block him?
No, because I want to just say, as someone who has had to wrestle with a lot of sexual issues, that's just not okay. Okay? If you call yourself a Christian and a lover of Christ, there's something wrong with this in your worldview. You should love people who you disagree with. You should be putting forth the gospel of Christ in charity towards them. You don't get to run into channel and I'm sorry. Just end the stream. I am too pissed.
All right. I'm sorry, everyone. And I just want to say this before I end it. I don't see anything effeminate about you, Nidemos. So I just totally disagree with this person. And God bless you guys. Good night.